were several things that I consider when thinking of a master's program. One of those was that there were only a couple universities that offered a program that I was interested in Ecuador. And their reputation was pretty good, but their focus was very regional, very related to the politics of the Andes. And I wanted my focus to be a bit broader than that. I was interested in Latin America in general and in global affairs, to say some more. And that brought me to thinking maybe I should think of an international education. Higher education in the U.S. is one of the prime services that the country has to offer, and there's no doubt that faculty from all over the world want to be at American universities because of funding, because of reputation, because of the specialization of the programs that are offered. And so you get people from around the world teaching and researching at centers in the U.S. One of the reasons I applied to the U.S. was because I knew there was more funding, but I knew that funding was becoming more limited in many schools. So when I applied, my original intent is let's learn how the process is so in the future I can be better at it. I wasn't really expecting to get in, although that was the hope. I didn't know. Once I got in, two things became really key in deciding which school to actually go to, and those were the city, the location, and mostly the funding. American University offered me basically almost a full ride, where I have almost full tuition remission, stipend. I was offered a position as a graduate faculty assistant, and so although it didn't cover all of the expenses, it covered quite a bit, and that was a burden that I didn't have to worry. It allows me to be in the program and focus on my studies and my interests and my career goals more than how am I going to pay for school. The program that I wanted to do, international relations and conflict resolution specifically, is a relatively new field. And so not many universities that have international relations programs have either a concentration or related field or even a specific program within their schools that offers conflict resolution. So that helped me in a way to narrow down which schools I could actually apply. But since it is a new field, it also made it really hard to compare because there's no standards, there's no curriculum designs that are like standardized, or there's no rankings. It's more on your own to decide whether that program is better or not compared to other schools. And so I went through the schools first that offered anything related to conflict resolution, and then I used kind of like a proxy way of measuring them, because I really wanted a conflict resolution program that was international relations focused. So I use international relations program rankings to make it easier for me to compare. My process was a bit different in a sense that I spent quite a bit of time deciding what specifically I wanted to get out of a program. And after choosing the schools that I wanted to apply, I was lucky enough that I didn't have to take any standardized exams like the GRE or the GMAT, except for the TOEFL, which is not really a hard exam. And so that part was the easier part. Now I recognized that the schools that I was applying had very different ways of selecting people and the type of people they brought in. So what was really important to me was to tailor my applications to those specific schools relating to what I was interested in and how I wanted to use my abilities and experiences to fit in the program and use them for a future career. And so I spent quite a bit of time tailoring my letters of intent, rewriting my resumes so they would show my experiences and how they fit best to the curriculum and the faculty they had. And that took quite a bit of time and a lot of research on what the interests of the faculty were and how the program was designed and what was the reason behind the changes in the curriculum they've had to understand better the program and to make sure that they knew when they were looking at my application that I really was invested in their program. And that was, I think, key in getting into several schools. My situation is pretty different from most students because I had a previous student visa and I've had other non-tourist visas. And so going through the process of issuing I-20s or DS 2019s and that kind of thing was a bit different. I also worked at a company where we worked with students or people who wanted to work in the US. So we had separate, so I was very aware and involved with the student visa. There are certain glitches in the system when it comes to when you're supposed to present your money and your documentation, let's say, before an I-20 or your documentation to get a visa can be issued. This is a peak in work for schools this time. And so mistakes can be made. And if you think that the school will solve it, you may be in trouble because they only help you so much. The embassy is completely independent. They won't look at the mistakes made by another agency. I would say follow up, get involved, and really get to know how the process works so you can be someone that can help facilitate that process instead of just be a passive observer. For me, one thing that reminds me quite often that I'm not home is that every time you eat, food tastes different. And that is a constant reminder that you're not home. So whatever your favorite thing to eat is, bring quite a bit of it. So that gives you that memory of home. And on the other side, it is easier to adjust to your new culture if you get involved. If the thing is, back home you have several roots. You're really rooted in your culture. You have friends, you have family, you have sports, you have art, you have whatever you're interested in. You're doing it all the time. When you get to the new country, you don't have those activities. You don't have really anything besides school. And the faster you get involved in things that you used to do back home, the easier it is to think, oh, maybe this is not so different. I'm not in this strange world. For me, it was really important to have an open mind when I was coming here. So I didn't have these expectations of how my life would change or what I wanted specifically it to be or what I wanted to get out of the program very specifically. And I think that made it easier because when you create these expectations that are very strong and they're not flexible, when you get there, you're expecting that to happen. And if it doesn't, then you feel like this was the wrong choice, that I shouldn't be here. And not having those hardly felt expectations made my transition smoother.